The Democratic Party, I'm going to say it tonight so that you won't be confused, is the anti-Christ party. It is anti-family. And I'm going to say this, you're not going to believe it, but it is anti-Black folk. You are only needed for votes. You are only loved when it's time to get your votes. There's no real care about you. And see, we still stuck, and we got that thing ingrained in us that this is the party for the Black man. It is not. The party has changed. Black people, really, to be honest with you, have never been the priority. They have only been used.
Welcome back, Warriors. This is me, Linda B. Thank you all so much for joining me here today. Today, I have Bishop Alton R. Williams of World Overcomers in Memphis, Tennessee. He is the pastor of this church. Now, he has got a word, a true word about the Democrats. Not that we didn't already know that, but it's nice to hear somebody else confirm it. Before we get further into it, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell, watch the video to the end. Let's get into it. So there's been a whole lot of talk about the Black church lately and about the church, period, because it's only one church, right? So there's been a lot of talk lately about the church and how worldly things have come into the church. And it's by way of a certain political party that, of course, are the Democrats. And here is Bishop Alton R. Williams to talk about it.
The Democratic Party, I'm going to say it tonight so that you won't be confused, is the anti-Christ party. It is anti-family. And I'm going to say this, you're not going to believe it, but it is anti-Black folk. You are only needed for votes. You are only loved when it's time to get your votes. There's no real care about you. And see, we still stuck, and we got that thing ingrained in us that this is the party for the Black man. It is not. The party has changed. Black people, really, to be honest with you, have never been the priority. They have only been used. Go back and look at the Civil Rights Act of 1964. We've all given Democrats credit for that, but Johnson was the one that wanted to pass it, but he couldn't get enough Democrat votes to pass it. It was the Republicans that pushed and passed the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Go tonight and look it up. Look at Wiki, W-I-K-I, put it in there, 1960. He couldn't even get enough Democrats to vote for it. So he had to go to Republican senators in order to help him out.
I got to say this. I do disagree with him on this because as far as I know, the Democrat Party has never changed. Maybe he misspoke right there. It has just changed in its way of doing the same thing, just inventing different ways to get the same result of making Black people subjugated or enslaved. Their tactics have changed, but they have not changed. At their core, the Democrat Party is and always will be a racist party. And also, Lyndon Baines Johnson, I don't believe, wanted to pass the Civil Rights Act or the Voting Rights Act. He never wanted it. He was a racist, a true racist. And he had a lot to do with what happened with JFK. He had a lot to do with it. Go see my video. I'll try to remember to link it at the end of this one, but it is a mess. Lyndon Baines Johnson was a racist and a whole lot of other evil stuff. He did not want to pass it, but if he passed, he was reportedly said that I'll have these N's, the N-word, voting Democrat for the next 200 years because things were put in place to enslave Black people another way. And that's through welfare policies. And he's going to talk about that.
Anti-life. The party pushes stuff that's anti-life. It pushes anti-morality because most of their policies are immoral, that pushes sexual perversion. It is the party of death. Why do you say that, Pastor? If you go back, you'll see slavery started with the Democratic Party. And we saw many slaves that died. We also saw under Jim Crow. Jim Crow was established by Democrats. And we saw under Jim Crow how many were hung and lynched. And then we're seeing today how many babies African-American people are giving up their future because they won't have, in another 15, 20 years, they won't have enough people because they have cut their birth rates off and have aborted their children. This is exactly what the party wants. So it is a party of death when it comes down to it. It is a party that is against Black families. Look at the history of the family from slavery, which were Democrat plantation owners. In slavery, they separated our families. They would not even acknowledge the marriages of Black families. They would even take a Black man over here who called himself being married to a woman, but if he was a big, strong guy, they took him and made him mate with another woman. That's one of the reasons our marriages and our families have not been strong, because the spirit of that has passed down generationally. We have not always had strong family structures like we should have. Now, we did good up in the early 1900s, 1920, 30. Our families were pretty good and pretty strong during that time. But what happened was they bought the war on poverty. This was Democrat. Bought the war on poverty. You know what they did? They gave money to fix a problem. So they had programs, they gave welfare, but they took one key out that they understood was the key to the family. They took the man out of the home. Ladies, we'll give you the money, but you can't have a man in your house. That means the children now were robbed of them having a father. And so that kept, once again, another policy that has hurt our families. And then even today, Black Lives Matter, which was also supported by the Democratic Party, they had in their particular policies that they were against the nuclear family that had the father at the head. They did not believe in patriarchy. And so we look down through the years and we've seen the party destroy our families. And people don't see it because they don't understand truth. This is why policy is so important, because it should be about America first. That's like all of you in your homes, your home, your children, and what you're responsible for has got to be first before you go and try to help everybody else. So we need to take, in order to be a blessing to other citizens from other nations, we got to take care of America first.
Amen and amen again. That's right. That's Bishop Alton R. Williams of World Overcomers. I so agree with most of what he said, but I don't believe the party, I don't believe LBJ wanted the Civil Rights Act or the Voting Rights Act. I believe he had no choice, because it would have been politically, it would have hurt him politically, because he saw where everything was going. He just had to come up with a way, the Democrats had to come up with a way to make sure that Black people vote Democrat if they're going to vote. And then they input the racist policies while pretending to be our friends, while so-called stabbing us in the back, right? So that's the truth about that. However, Republicans were the ones that pushed it through. Democrats actually filibustered it. Don't believe me? Watch this.
Today, I commend the GOP for passing the 1960 Civil Rights Act. Dwight Eisenhower signed it on May 6th. Said the president, quote, "As was the case with the Act of 1957, recommendations of this administration underlie the features of the Civil Rights Act of 1960. The new act is concerned with a range of civil rights problems. One title makes it a crime to obstruct rights or duties under federal court orders by force or threat of force. The new act also deals significantly with that key constitutional right of every American, the right to vote without discrimination on account of race or color. It will play an important role in the days ahead in attaining our goal of equality under..."
And I want to read this here. This is the 1960 Civil Rights Act. It says 100% of Republican senators voted for it. 30% of Democratic senators voted against it, which of course means 70% voted for it. So more Republicans voted for it. Republican President Dwight Eisenhower signed the 1960 Civil Rights Act after it survived a 5-day filibuster by 18 Senate Democrats. 94%, 17 of 18 of these Democratic senators remained lifelong Democrats, including John Stennis, Russell Long, chairman of the Senate Committee on Finance, and others.
Law in all areas of our country for all Americans. This legislation had been introduced by Everett Dirksen, the Republican Senate leader. Page 188 of Back to Basics for the Republican Party explains that it strengthened provisions of the GOP's 1957 Civil Rights Act. Eisenhower expressed regret that the Democrats had weakened the original bill. Prior to its passage, 18 Democrats filibustered against the bill for 125 hours, the longest filibuster in U.S. Senate history.
There you have it. Little history lesson. 125 hours is literally the longest filibuster in Senate history. These Democrats really did not want Black people to have civil or voting rights. That is the truth behind the matter. And you know, you got lies out there about this something called the Southern strategy. Have you guys heard of it? That's the Democrats trying to hide behind their racist history. There's no such thing as a Southern strategy. That's something they invented. They probably just wanted to come up with it. I think it said something about Richard Nixon tried to figure out a way to gain the support of Southern Democrats. He wanted to gain the support of Southern Democrats. But in any event, and there's another story about Strom Thurmond, but in any event, it's not true. There's too many similarities between the Democrat Party of old and today. Alton R. Williams, Bishop Williams just said it. They enslaved Black people back in the day and enslaved us again with welfare, because that's the Democrat plantation. They want to keep you in prison. The more you give someone something free that they don't have to work for, the more you get to control them by saying, if you don't do what I tell you, I'm going to take this away. Someone that I know and care about, but they've made a lot of bad decisions. This is a very young person, and this person has a certain disease, type 1 diabetes, and this person wanted to go to college to try to better himself. He was told that they would take his benefits away for his diabetes if he went to college. He's got type 1 diabetes. He cannot not get his medication and not have it. So he wants to go to school, but they're going to take that away. You see how that works? It's like the more you give someone, the more you can say, I'm going to take it away from you if you don't do what I tell you. That is a form of enslavement. The Democratic Party at its core has not changed, but the devices by which they use have changed. But the part that remains the same is to keep certain people subjugated to them. And it has gone far beyond Black people at this point. It is for all Americans that we are in this, some say allegedly communism. They say that about Kamala Harris, that she's allegedly a communist. They call her Comrade Kamala, all the things. That's what they call her. And I just want everybody to truly, truly wake up and understand what is really going on. The Democrats control media, music industry, Hollywood, the TV, big tech, big pharma. So a lot of things are controlled by them. They are literally controlling. It's like the Antichrist spirit. And if you don't do what I say, I take your job away, you're canceled. So I don't want to go off on a rant. I'm good for one every now and then. But that right there, what Bishop Alton R. Williams said, is gooder than chicken. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You all be blessed. Love God, your families, the United States of America, and march on, warriors.